10,000. That is an unfathomable number. Seriously, try to imagine 10,000 as something in your head. The human mind almost cannot comprehend a number that size. Yet, that value is precisely how big this channel's grown to. What amazes me, and I think will amaze you too, is that in the grand scheme of things, Southern Plains Railfan is now larger than about 98% of all channels on YouTube, which is just insane to me. And I can't let that statistic sit idle by without saying thank you. Absolutely none of this would be possible without all y'all's constant support. So thank you for making this channel what it is. And now, without any further ado, it is my pleasure to bring to you the Southern Plains Railfan 10,000 subscriber special in the form of an Ask Me Anything, as chosen by you, the viewers. Alright, we got a lot of questions to answer, so let's get into it. The first question is one that several people have asked. What is your favorite fallen flag, and what is your favorite railroad? And the answer to both of those questions would be Santa Fe, baby, are you kidding me? Nothing beats seeing old ATSF engines highballing down the track. And Santa Fe just has an incredible history, such as helping to settle the American West, building one of the most vital rail lines on the continent, operating world-class luxury trains, and possessing an incredible array of motive power in their later years. So, Santa Fe, favorite fallen flag, and favorite railroad. This one was also asked by a couple people. What is your favorite heritage unit? Norfolk Southern 1069. I've liked the Virginians paint job before I ever even knew what a heritage unit was, and Aces are some of my favorite road engines. Question 3. What is your favorite steam engine, and how many have you seen in real life? Probably the PC-13 number 2, but I like any Shays really. I've seen 0. Hopefully I can change that someday. Next up, when did you start YouTube? Back in 2020 actually, with this very channel. So here's an untold story for y'all. Southern Plains Railfan actually started out as a completely different channel. It was like a low-budget William Osmond of sorts, where I would build random contraptions and try to be funny in the process. But it never really caught on, the videos were mediocre, and none of my jokes or quips were ever really that funny, because I never scripted anything. And once school started up again, I pretty much abandoned the project. But in 2021, I overhauled my little channel into Southern Plains Railfan, and officially started posting about a year and a half ago. Next, thoughts on train music. I freaking love it. I think it's a unique genre of music that not too many people enjoy these days. Some of the songs can be a little corny, but by and large, it's great. And this user asks, what is your favorite Amtrak locomotive? Probably any of their GG1s. They just look so out of place in Amtrak colors, and it's just not something you would have expected the company to use. Question 7 is, when will the Bluebonnets from Galesburg be back in Burlington? Either never or the next time the stars align. 1755 and 169 were taken off that route and separated a couple weeks ago, so it's anyone's guess, unfortunately. Another one that several people asked was, what is your favorite locomotive? Any Santa Fe-9 Warbonnet, hands down. Next up, did you see Norfolk Western 611? Nope, never seen it. Moving on, what is your favorite paint scheme on a locomotive? By far, Santa Fe's Superfleet Warbonnet scheme. After that, we got a question from Titanic Liverpool. Do you have a model railroad? Yes, it's a bunch of post-war Lionel stuff, but it's 500 miles away and it's all in boxes. Alright, several people have asked what got you into trains and what got you into rail fanning. Well, for trains, it's almost inexplicable. I can't remember a single time in my life when I wasn't interested in trains. As for my interest in rail fanning, that started in 21 when I got a job right by the railroad tracks. So I just got to watch trains all day, every day at work. Then I discovered Virtual Railfan's OKC Live Cam. I started participating in that, asking questions, giving a heads up for inbound trains, etc. And then it just snowballed from there. I started learning everything I could about the subject, and now I'm Southern Plains Rail fan. Big Poopy asks, what's your favorite company paint scheme, current or former, and why isn't it Burlington Northern? Favorite paint scheme? Superfleet Warbonnet. Why ain't it BN? Well, Warbonnets are just timeless, and I never really saw too much from BN growing up around the Red Rock sub. If there was a fallen flag to be seen, it was almost always a Warbonnet, so I guess there's a nostalgia factor to that as well. Also, they're just more appealing to look at in my opinion. Question 14. How often do you take a rail fanning trip to Galesburg, and how many trains do you see every visit? I usually go at least once a month, and I see a ton of trains, easily 20 or more in a single trip. Now this next one was an interesting one. If you could choose 3 locomotives currently in BNSF service to be donated to a museum, what would they be and why? First engine I'd donate would be one of the GP50 Super Cabs. Only 5 were ever made, and they were all for Burlington Northern. Overall, they're just unique engines with an interesting history. Next would be a GP60B. Not only are GP60s the last Jeeps ever made, but the GP60B takes things a step further, as it was only used by the Santa Fe, and only 23 were produced, so it's quite a rare and niche locomotive. And finally, an ATSF-9 Warbonnet. These things are disappearing left and right, and they're some of the last locomotives used by one of America's most historic and influential railroads. Also, RRHMA's Dash 8 could use some company. Next query. Will you ever rail fan on the East Coast, California, or any other states? And what is your favorite bonnet paint scheme from ATSF? Actually, I've already done some rail fanning in both these places. Here are photos from both the trips. But as for a full-length video out east and in California, I want to make one, but I just gotta find the time and money to do it. And as for rail fanning in other states, I've already done that too. I've got videos in Oklahoma, Kansas, Iowa, Illinois, Louisiana, California, and maybe Arizona if I remember correctly. And my favorite bonnet scheme from ATSF is Warbonnets, with the original Blue Bonnet in close second. Question 17 comes from Rusty Martin, and he asks, what's the oldest thing you've ever caught in revenue service? Well, if you could count Big Boy as being in revenue service, it would be that. But in terms of true revenue service engines that ain't being used for publicity stunts, it would be BN number 54. It's a rebuilt SD9 that was made in 1955. Question 19 comes from Mask Lava Fox, and they ask, if you could buy any rail lines past or present for your railroad, what lines would you buy? All of them. Then, I'll take my profits from my monopoly, outsource all the management work I'd have to do, and live on a super yacht in the middle of the Caribbean with 20 Lamborghinis coated in moon dust on board. There'll also be an ice sculpture carved from Alaskan glacier ice at the bow that must be replaced daily with a helicopter. And Rails of Ontario asks several questions. 1. What do you think of the C44-9WL and C40-8M? I think they're awesome, and they could definitely be seen as icons of modern Canadian railroading. 2. Opinion on Thomas the Tank Engine. I don't remember much about the show other than I really liked it, so good show. 3. Opinion on CP's Royal Hudson. I think it's awesome they're making it operational, but I'm sad that a merger had to take place for that to happen. So its restoration is kind of a double-edged sword, really. 4. Are you going to catch the run of CP 2816? Yes, I absolutely plan on catching it. 5. What do you think of the new CPKC livery? I think they could have used more elements from KCS. Currently, it looks like a knockoff version of Canadian National, but maybe they're trying to establish a theme for Canadian railroads. You never know. 6. Warbonnet Classic or Superfleet Warbonnet? Superfleet Warbonnet. The billboard letters on the side fill up that otherwise huge empty space, and in my opinion, they make the paint scheme feel more balanced. 7. Blue Bonnet or Warbonnet? Warbonnet. And Central Kansas Railfan also asked several questions. What is your favorite heritage/special interest unit? The Golden Swoosh and NS 1069. What's your greatest catch of all time? Probably honking the horn on the Warbonnet local. That was just a once-in-a-lifetime experience. What's your opinion on UP donating 3985, 5511, and 6936? I'm super glad they donated them. The best way to preserve something is to use it, and UP was just going to let them rot, while RRHMA plans to restore them. So I see them being donated as getting a new lease on life. Next, do pineapples belong on pizza? What is your favorite EMD and GE locomotive, and which company is better? First, no, they belong in the pizza integrated into the dough. Second, the SD9 and the B40-8W. An EMD is better by far. Their engines are better pullers, last longer, look cooler, and deliver power instantly because most EMDs have a gear-driven turbo, unlike GEs that have purely exhaust-driven ones, which takes forever to spool up. Alright, this one comes from Gaming with Luke. What is your rarest catch? That's a toughie. It's either the Burlington Bluebonnets or Big Boy, and I think I'm going to have to go with Big Boy, simply because it's the largest locomotive in the world. It's a steam engine owned and operated by a Class 1, and it's the only one of its kind that's functional. After that, we got what are some of your favorite catches, and what do you find unique about war bonnets compared to bluebonnets, or any fallen flag paint scheme. Some of my favorites would of course be the War Bonnet Local, the Burlington Bluebonnets, anything from Kansas City Southern while they were still around, any of the numerous heritage units and oddballs I've seen, and the Silver Spike Ceremony to name a few. As for what I find unique about war bonnets, they're just timeless. No other paint job in American railroad history has been as long-lived or as recognizable as the war bonnet, and it was created by my favorite railroad, so I'm a bit biased in that regard. Question 33 is, which passenger railroad, commuter, intercity, or long distance do you like the most? While I don't know much about commuter railroads, I think I'll have to go with Amtrak. They've got pretty neat heritage units, and they even had road railers about 20 years ago. Jose Pantoja asks, what is your favorite oddball/heritage unit from each railroad? BNSF, Golden Swoosh. Union Pacific, Southern Pacific 1996. CSX, Chessie System, but that may change. Norfolk Southern, the Virginian. CPKC, their ex-KCSF 9s. Canadian National, the GT Heritage Unit. Next up, what is your favorite GE-8 and EMD standard cab? Favorite -8 would be the B40-8W. They're super unique, as they're the most powerful 4-axle locomotive ever made, and they were only made for one railroad. As for the EMD side, anything with a GP30 style cab. These engines just have a super unique car body overall, with some of the coolest looking cabs on the railroad. Next up, where do you get ideas? So my video ideas come from all over. A lot of times, I'll either remember or see an intriguing image/video clip I came across anywhere from 1 month ago to 10 years ago, and if the ideas I get from those memories make it through my idea filter, so to speak, then they become a video. Other times, I get ideas from my own questions. That's where videos like how every type of locomotive works and how trains can pull so much came from. I knew next to nothing about those subjects, and I wanted my questions answered, so I made videos on them. Other times, I might remember snippets of a conversation from however long ago, and that inspires ideas. That's kind of how the cartel video originated. Or I just think, what would the community like to see? What just seems interesting to me? Or what seems the best for the channel? That's where 10 obscure rail cars in 10 minutes came from, along with the Schnabel video. Now, Autism Takes On has several questions. 1. Which country is your favorite when it comes to their railways? The United States. We just have an incredible variety of things to see here, from fallen flags and heritage units on the big Class 1s, to tiny, oftentimes very unique short lines, and our numerous museums full of operable pieces of history. And that's not to mention all the places and landscapes we get to railfan in too. 2. What's your opinion about electrically controlled pneumatic brakes? Well, I don't really have an opinion about ECPs, because I don't know a single thing about them. 3. Do you believe the U.S. moving from rails to roads was a mistake? Yes, because it was an inefficient move on basically all fronts. But it wasn't a move made without reason. For many railroads, passenger service just wasn't profitable enough to keep around, since jet planes, interstates, and improved cars took away most of their business. 4. What are your thoughts about battery electric locomotives? I think right now, they're far too resource intensive to be viable. If battery-powered locomotives are going to be successful in the long term, I think they'll have to be powered by something other than lithium batteries. 5. What are your thoughts on the GM-C6 and GM-10B locomotives? I think they're some of the wildest looking engines I've ever seen. That's function over form taken to heart right there. 6. Do you think U.S. railroads should electrify? Why or why not? No. Our current locomotives do absolutely everything we need them to, and they do it well. I don't think there's a use in building a nationwide system of overhead electrical wires and designing completely new electric freight locomotives when we already have a system that works just fine. Also, electrifying railroads as big as the ones in the U.S. would be a logistical nightmare. And finally, all-time favorite engine model, and can you say your voice sounds like Liquid South. All-time favorite engine model? Probably the SD9. I mean, they're just mean machines. And for all the marbles, John Deere. Once again, I'd just like to say thank you to everyone for all the support over the past year and a half, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. Next stop, 100,000. Thanks for watching. If y'all enjoyed this video, consider checking out some other ones of mine. Also, maybe pass yourself by the merch shop. Anyways, till next time.